Welcome to RAADcast, where science and soul converge in shaping the future of human potential. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Carol Peterson, and together we're stepping beyond limits to explore super longevity. Produced by the Coalition for Radical Life Extension, the visionaries behind RAADfest, RAADcast is more than a podcast. It's a movement for the bold, the curious, and those who refuse to settle for anything less than the extraordinary. Together, we'll uncover the cutting-edge science, unknown strategies, and transformative practices, paving the way for a future of limitless potential. If you're ready to think bigger, dream bolder, and live longer, you're in the right place. This is RAADcast. Now let's get ready to explore the future of life itself. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's show, as I am truly honored to have with us James LaValle. He is the trailblazer in integrative health and longevity medicine, sharing over 38 years of excellence as an internationally recognized clinical pharmacist and board-certified clinical nutritionist. He's an accomplished author, an educator, and he's also the visionary behind the Metabolic Code. It's a revolutionary AI technology platform that's providing personalized health solutions to transform patient care. Jim was recently appointed as the Chief Science Officer over at Lifetime Fitness, and he's leading the charge as they're developing the groundbreaking longevity and performance program called Miura. Now, I'm super excited to personally, Jim is a friend, he's a mentor, he's an amazing human, and we are going to pull back the curtain today. We're going to deep dive into metabolics. We're going to unpack it as it can help us better find our own path, our own code to super longevity so that we really can look better, feel better, and live our longest, healthiest, and most vital life. Jim, welcome. Great to have you here.
It's great to be here. I'm worried about us having enough time. Whenever we get together, it's there's smoke coming out of my ears, there's fire coming off my shoes, we just run hard. So I'm excited.
I am too. So get ready. Hold on tight, everybody, and just enjoy, be flies on the wall, and participate and take notes and let us know how you're enjoying this conversation because yeah, Jim and I love to go deep into this beautiful conversation. And I kind of want to dive right in. You've been an OG, an early adopter to this conversation, really about the importance of metabolic health. And you've been doing it now for almost 4 decades. And he truly is on brand, you guys, because if you happen to watch the video of this, you're going to see how phenomenal this amazing human looks. So he continues to age in reverse, which is why we want to know all of his, how do we do it too? So we're excited for that. So you've been here, you've been looking at it all, you've been an early adopter, an early educator.
Right.
So tell me about your vision. Like, how would you say your vision where you started and where you're at has maybe evolved over this time as it pertains to really considering life extension and just optimizing health and longevity?
That's a great question. When I first talked about the metabolic code, my son was actually going through all my old PowerPoints, even the physical copies, the binders, right? From 1997. And he found the very first presentation that I gave on the metabolic code, and that was 1997. And honestly, the vision hasn't changed. I would say the depth of the research that supports kind of what my thesis was that back in 1997, I was talking about whole body metabolism, meaning that all your body's talking with each other. You're only as strong as your weakest organ. So, all your other organs are great, but your kidneys are filtering at, a GFR, a filtration rate of 40. Your kidneys are taking you down, right? And so what it's important to understand is that your body is a system of systems, that each system is communicating, first of all, within itself, and then within the greater organization of all the other networks in your body. Much like if you think about circadian timing of how you release all your hormones and neurotransmitters, all of your organ systems are communicating with each other to maintain homeostasis. And I'm a big believer that we age our best when our body's not burning too rich and it's not underachieving. When we maintain this process of homeostasis where all the organ systems are balanced and in functioning together. And then how do we support those organ systems so that they can keep on maintaining as we're aging? Because as we know, when you age, these systems tend to wear down. So how am I going to bolster those up and maintain homeostasis? So that was the initial vision. And I would say today, the only thing that's changed is that more and more literature is being published that allows us to see these interconnections. So that's one. Two, more labs are available that help us to show, what organ system's aging too quick. Where is the status of our mitochondria? Are we making too much of the inflammatory neurochemicals that's damaging the brain, damaging our kidneys, damaging our pancreas, et cetera? And I think that's it. And I'll tell you what's remained the same. What's remained the same is we've got to make the complex simple. Because it's easy to make the complex complex. I can take a bunch of cool labs and show people 384 markers, but the reality is I've got to take all that data and I got to move it into a plan. What do you do to move a person in the right direction? And I've been fortunate to have, if not the biggest, one of the biggest clinics, actually institutes in the country for a long time. I ran that in Cincinnati, Ohio. And of course, now transferring to Miura with Lifetime, 2.5 million members, putting out longevity programs there. I think it's going to be pretty darn meaningful, that we're going to be able to prove what we're doing changes the equation. So anyway, short
Which
answer.
is huge. So you've had the opportunity, again, bird's eye view, to look over these trends, over the research, over the data, and specifically from your own system, working with health practitioners, working with large brands like Lifetime. And of course, I'm hearing you, it's growing and you're going to have more and more numbers and data sets coming in. But just from what you've seen over your years in clinical practice, what percentage of individuals are coming in with metabolic breakdown and or dysfunction that is accelerating that rate and pace of biological aging?
Oh, I would say now I've got two populations of people. I've got super athletes,
Yep.
and then in addition to super athletes, I've got everyday sick people, right?
Yep.
And so I would say that the including the super athletes, 90% or more.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because
So
most
I
of the
kind
time
of like
they're
I
overtrained.
was baiting him on that, you guys, because I'd say it's probably almost closer to 100%. Meaning
Yeah.
the process of aging is a metabolic process. It begins the moment we are conceived and it continues until the moment that we transition from this physical form. And of course, today we are exploring on this show, how do we extend life radically as long as possible? Because hey, if we're having fun and we're loving it, like why do we have to go, right? So are there things we can be doing better now? And you and I have discussed for so long, Jim, the fact that, okay, it's very clear we're missing the mark overall. Like most of us are
I,
not, we're just not even getting close to homeostasis. And so I love that you've made the complex simple. The metabolic code helps to look at a systems approach to say, what's the weakest link? What system is the weakest link? So what I'm hearing from you, where do you find, obviously people will dive into how they get access to learning through more of a
right.
precision lens with what you do. Again,
Sure.
looking at global trends, where could most people benefit in helping themselves in bolstering their systems or maybe knowing where to support their body the most, to take a proactive metabolic stance to keep themselves aging as slowly as possible and even reverse aging to really extend that health span and that lifespan?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's some big levers that people need just to pull down. You just have to do it. There's no way to get around it. So the first step is people need to move. They definitely need to move. Do you have to over exercise? Do you have to, run a tough mudder or do a Spartan race? No, you don't. But you do have to move on a regular basis. Then in addition to moving on a regular basis, people have to make smarter choices about what they're eating and how they're approaching their diet, how many calories you're taking in, what kind of calories you're taking in, and what are the right foods for me? Am I intolerant to certain foods? Because there's two things that people need to do every day. They have to move, and the more structurally decompensated you are, the harder it is to move. You increase risk of fall. These are really important aspects to it. And then you have to eat every day. You don't have to eat Tibetan goji berries that have been filtered by a lemur and picked by a monk. That doesn't have to happen. They're cool, right? All the cool stuff. They're cool. There's a lot of cool ingredients out there. But those are the top two things. But then why are you doing that? First of all, it's, when you look at why we age, it all starts moving through this process of metabolic inflammation or metainflammation. And metainflammation means my body can't turn the inflammation off that it turned on in order to try to repair. Instead, I keep stacking up the blocks of inflammation chemistry. I'm building a wall between me and my wellness because I have so much inflammation chemistry that may not be showing up as a joint issue. It could show up as cognitive. It could show up as GI. It could show up as circulation, plaquing of your arteries. It could be any number of things. So metabolic inflammation, which is driven by, look, I mean, in the end, it's environmental burden, being exposed to things like water damaged buildings, it's eating the wrong foods, it's being on medications that alter your microbiome or deplete nutrients from you, it's not getting enough sleep, right? So let's assume we understand the buckets that cause us not to be well. Where the crossroads hit, like where is that crossroad? One is that you get gut permeability changes. And gut permeability changes have far-reaching issues, right? So it's not just that your gut gets permeable and now I don't absorb things well. Your microbiome shifts, your microbiome breaks down, you make more lipopolysaccharide because the bacteria is breaking up, and that's a component of the bacteria. And that lipopolysaccharide has to be filtered through the lymph and the liver. And we used to think the lymph was just a bunch of filters, but it turns out it can send out inflammatory signals as well. So the lymphatic system much more active. And then we realize that in addition to the gut breaking down, we have to start thinking about, well, what's happening from the brain down? Because when the gut's breaking down, there's that nervous system that connects it called the enteric nervous system to the brain, and the immune signals that when we're building that big wall and we're creating those inflammatory cytokines, it triggers neuroinflammation, which then starts to alter all of the signaling in our brain. So the big areas where people need to start to think about is, one, I have to manage that whole process of gut, immune, brain. And we should also realize that when you don't sleep and you don't exercise, the lymphatic system of the glial cells of the brain, known as the glymphatic system, cannot get rid of the waste proteins and byproducts of metabolism of your brain. And now we create more inflammatory response in the brain. And so there's that network. So take care of your gut. The other one is managing stress. And the reason for the management of stress is it's the aspect of sympathetic dominance. So when people have resting heart rates that are in the 70s, when their 2-minute heart rate recovery time from an exercise is less than 24 beats. Now, when you're in sympathetic dominance, you're stressing the immune system to a pro-inflammatory stance. I happen to think most people, almost all people, are sitting in that sympathetic dominance. White tiger is chasing me. And you have to be careful because, if you stack your day up with all your anti-aging strategies and that's stressing you out because you're not getting your work done, well, it's no longer an anti-aging strategy.
Right.
It's, oh my God, I'm not getting enough done what I need to get done. And so where the rubber hits the road in all of it, so the real intersection is insulin resistance. And people start as soon as you start making inflammatory chemistry, you shift your ability of your cell to make energy from 30 plus packets of energy to 2 packets of energy. And now you're an insulin resistant person who's storing white fat that can't get access. The visceral fat that's being stored is creating a bunch of adipokines, meaning inflammatory compounds coming from your fat. And because you're making more lipopolysaccharide, because when your glucose goes up and your gut is leaky, you trigger more of a compound in your brain called galectin-3. And galectin-3 is what triggers tau protein phosphorylation and amyloid plaque formation. So I have to worry about memory, gut, and insulin resistance. And if I can get my hands wrapped around that, the lipids will take care of themselves. And yeah, you may have to detoxify the liver and kidney because you got some lead or arsenic or mercury or glyphosate. You got to clean that stuff up. But I've got people that come to me with Excel spreadsheets, 4 pages long of things they're doing. 4 pages.
Yeah.
Here's my peptide page. Here's my nutrient page. Here's my drug page, right? Here's my regenerative therapies page that I do. And I look at their lab values and I go, but you got a 96 blood sugar and an 8 insulin, and your kidney filtration is low. You're still accelerating your aging because you have not grasped foundational aspects. And the last thing I would say, obviously, hormonal health, sex hormones, which are the tail wagging the dog, right? I mean, they should stay pretty vital as we age. But now we've got 25-year-old males with 160 testosterones and women who are going into early menopause, right? Because all these things I just talked about shut down your hormones. So I think I just gave you...
The longevity revolution is about more than just searching online for a few hacks, or any one of us moving our biomarkers in the right direction. It's about coming together to learn, share, to connect, and create the unlimited future we want. That's why you need to be at RAADfest 2025 in Las Vegas from July 10th to the 13th. RAADfest, the revolution against aging and death, is proud to be partnering for the first time with Dr. Aubrey de Grey and Longevity Escape Velocity Foundation to form the single most comprehensive, advanced, informative, and inspiring event on age reversal for a general audience. Meet the people you want to make forever with. RAADfest 2025. Take advantage of lower advanced pricing now at raadfest.com.
Okay. You just gave us a lot. So to all
I thought that was
listeners,
the beginning question. I just thought we were starting.
we warned you all at the beginning. Okay, we warned you. So here's a few things. It's really interesting. First of all, that was a master class. So for those of you, what's beautiful about this show, we have experts and enthusiasts alike that are really wanting to jump in to know how to truly be proactive. And I think that one thing that we all kind of hit, we bump up against, if you will, is this fact like, okay, we want to be proactive. We want to learn all the things. But when you take a 10-minute, you succinctly said it in 5 minutes, a 5-minute masterclass, you just gave such deep clinical knowledge in just a few moments, but you really summed up the fact that it is complex. It can be overwhelming. It can be incredibly confusing. I was talking with Dr. Gonzalez, and I'm like, if we look at the way we live, it's almost as if the deck is stacked against us, right? So we are well intentioned to get up, to go out and say, I live this long, amazing, vital life. And it's like we take 2 steps forward, and then there are all these things kind of coming at us, keeping us in a sympathetic state that can easily take us 3 steps backwards. And so on the one hand, it's as if we are getting stuck in this base state where dysregulation, dysfunction is in overdrive. And the things that we all want more of, more aliveness, more joy, more purpose, more energy, more love and passion, and just, creativity and all the beautiful things that really make life worth living. It's like, yeah, I want that, but I'm spending so much time over here trying to figure this stuff out on my 4-page spreadsheet. What the heck do I do? So like
you nailed that.
That's
exactly
to it, right? You're like, shoot. We're really trying to inspire you all on the show. You may not know that yet, but we are going to deliver. I promise.
Yes. Yeah, I honestly think it's not that. I personally don't think it's that hard.
Yeah.
I think it's work. that it's worth it, that people should think about thriving as they age. To me, yes, we all want to hit the escape velocity and live to 120. I want people to live to 85 right now, fully engaged in their life, doing whatever they want. And if they make it past that, they make it to 90, if they make it to 95, we should be celebrating, right? Because the reality is people die at 77 in the US right now, today.
Yeah.
77. And usually that's preceded by 10 years of some comorbidities.
Correct.
So by the time people hit their, and I'm not saying that to be depressed, because I'll tell you right now, I believe you can start at 75 and you can get 15 good years out of yourself if you take care of yourself. I really believe that. But it's that thought of people want to take, and look, I just wrote my second edition of the peptide book. I'm a big believer in peptides. My new metabolic code book is coming out, which will foster the next, I hope, 20 years of thought, just like the first one did.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge believer, and I love extractions and peptides and signaling molecules, but it all starts with you making decisions about, I'm going to get better sleep. I'm going to turn this thing off at night. I'm going to learn how to breathe. I'm going to become mindful about where I am. It all really starts with that, because then you start making better decisions about what is it you value more. Do you value joy more, or do you value another order of nachos more?
Yeah. And I agree, Jim. I mean, I do believe, and I say it often here on the show, we have to begin within the moment right now. And it's not about judgment and blame and shame. It's simply getting curious within self to say, yeah, what do I actually want more of? Am I happy with how I'm expressing, how I'm experiencing my life right now? And if I am, then a big heck yes, let's keep doing more of it. And if it's like, well, this is good, and also it could be even better, then great. Let's continue to look at, what do we want to do more of? Anything would we like to experience less of, because we just know that it's a drain on the system. So if we keep it super
Right.
simple, and I do want us to go from, there's a part of this, and it is deeply rooted in science, you all. This is not just like general
Right.
wellness. We forget, again, we are living natural organisms in sync, in rhythm, in time with nature. There are signals and cues from the outer world to the inner world that talk to our brain, to our body, to our very DNA, that literally will help us to express or repress our longevity potential. So we do need to not forget the basics. We do exactly as you're saying. Like, what is it that gets us up out of bed? Right? Is it a big enough reason to get out of bed? First of all, if not, like, maybe we need to spend a few extra minutes in gratitude. Like, maybe we start there first. And then we get up, and then we move, and then we eat the good things, and we think the good things, and we engage in the good things. And I'm not dismissing that, because I'm a huge proponent of it, and we're going to come back to that when we round this conversation. But you just opened up another part that I want to just kind of hypothesize with the best information you have, because again, you're
Sure.
out in front of it and you've got these data sets. So as we look at the regenerative elements coming to market more and more, the things that could potentially be big needle movers in giving us that net positive gain of biological age reversal compared
Sure.
to chronological age progression, where we really could be hitting longevity escape velocity. And we're thinking things like exosomes and stem cells, any of the, kind of regenerative molecules, and of course, peptides. So from what you see now, what do you genuinely believe, your best educated scientific guess of what these molecules can do? How far can they move the needle? And is that enough to override maybe bad lifestyles and things like that? Where do they fit in this equation of super longevity?
So I think small molecules and peptides are the next horizon, and I think they'll add a decade to life in individuals if they're done right. I mean, I really do. All you got to do is look at, say, GLP-1s, for example. The GLP-1 peptides, like people have heard of them, Ozempic or Mounjaro or retatrutide, or a brand name, or the chemical name of semaglutide, tirzepatide, right? And other GLP-1s coming out on the market here shortly. just that peptide alone
Yeah.
is honestly will save millions of lives if done correctly, right?
Yes. Yes.
Meaning that, everybody thinks that you lose muscle on those. Well, you lose muscle if your appetite's suppressed and you choose not to eat protein, because we know that if you eat 1.6 grams per kilogram of protein with your GLP-1 treatment per day, you're going to reduce the amount of lean mass loss. And actually, GLP-1s actually signal the regaining of skeletal muscle, which has been published.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you lose muscle.
Yeah.
But the most important thing, like if I said to you, because this is what I came up with when I first was at Lifetime and we were talking about GLP-1s, and it was controversial because a lot of people in the fitness world think you should be able to exercise and diet and your body will become optimal no matter what. Right? I mean, it's like that. And we had to go through this thought process of if I told people you're not allowed to do your insulin anymore, right? Insulin's a peptide for the pancreas that helps the whole body. People would look at me like I was crazy. It's like, what do you mean? If people don't get their insulin, they're going to die quickly, acute. They die quick, right? They can go diabetic coma, big problems happen. They can get ketoacidotic. We didn't think that GLP-1s, when you don't have enough incretin hormones, it kills you slowly. It's not like insulin that's acute. It's a slow march towards plaque burden, kidney disease, enlarging of the left ventricle of the heart, right? Glial cell activation in your brain. There's all these things that it's more of a peptide that manages your chronic march towards aging. Because people with insulin resistance and diabetes do age quicker, they do die younger, period. I mean, if you're diabetic by age 30, type 2 diabetic, not type 1, you're type 2 diabetic by age 30, you will live 13 years less. And that's a study that just came out. I mean, it's so my point being is that's just one peptide.
Yeah.
If I think of mitochondrial peptides that help to restore how your cells make energy. Now, I'm not saying stay on them all the time, but in a program where you're rejuvenating mitochondrial function, that's another one that could be life extending because we wear down, right? All chronic illness points back towards mitochondrial failure.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you look at immune function.
Yes.
As we age, our thymus gland shrinks. And when our thymus gland shrinks, we can't make as many thymic peptides. And thymic peptides help regulate immune modulation, our ability to understand self and non-self and not to attack self.
Right.
And so as we age, that also occurs, right? Top 5 causes of death in the elderly, colds and flus. Their immune system's worn out. It can't identify the virus. It says, yeah, go ahead, take my lungs over. I get pneumonia, I die. I mean, that's so when you ask, where are these small molecules in peptides, I can go through and identify how these compounds are literally going to help us. As I said at the beginning of my talk, and it probably because I realized I was talking really slow. So if people sped up what I was saying, they'd probably hear it. And what I said was that our job is to keep us structurally integrated, and that these promising compounds like peptides, like small molecules, like botanicals, like bioidentical hormones, as we're coming across time, we're keeping the integrity of what these organs and tissues were supposed to do.
Yes. Yes.
And that is what is the magic. I mean, one of my favorite right now, I mean, OS01. I mean, OS01 is lights out one of the most just exciting new small molecules that I have seen in the last decade. I mean, because nothing else does what it does. And it's transformational what it's doing at the cellular level. So I think that it's incredibly important that we look at these compounds and we learn how to apply them, and we learn how to apply them as they're needed, not take them because, oh, I'm going to support my thymus, and I'm going to support my mitochondria, and I'm going to support my brain. I'm going to take everything 3 times a day. I'm going to be one big pincushion, right? Or, swallowing 4 pages of pills a day. It's the nuance of give your body what it needs, allow your body to flourish.
Are you ready to redefine aging and unlock your full potential as a longevity leader? At the Human Longevity Institute, our world-class certification programs train doctors, coaches, and wellness professionals how to deliver cutting-edge integrative longevity health solutions so people can live better today for longer, healthier, and more vibrant tomorrows. If you're ready to join the longevity revolution, visit humanlongevityinstitute.com to enroll and become a practitioner today. Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's where we come back, folks, that, what's interesting is that the way conventional medicine has kind of indoctrinated all of us is this idea that we take a pill for an ill, and it's like you're on it and you're on it every day ongoing. There's no time coming off. And so we think it's the same way for any type of supplement, any type of molecule. We're going to take something, we get on it, we don't go off. And that's not actually how the body works. It's always for what reason? Why are these things coming in? When do we need them, and how do they work innately and naturally in the body? And so, yes, as we chronologically age, there is a decrease in the strength, the quality of the signaling. I'm going to make a general blanketed statement right now.
Sure.
And so a lot of times we're saying, okay, well, we need to enhance that signal, right? So a lot of times we're taking things in to say, well, we need some more of that to bump it up so that we can get a hyperphysiological response, so it can kind of reactivate it and have it do its thing that the body's used to doing. And what's great really about longevity medicine and where we're continuing to evolve in this very precise way, it's not one size fits most and just take a whole 150 supplements a day and you're going to live forever. That's not what it's about. It is understanding things work in pulsatile functions, just like the sun rises and sets. We don't need the same things every single day. There's seasons of the year. The body moves through phases and stages. And I think we have an opportunity that we're going to get more sophisticated with that. And I want to kind of tee that idea back to you, Jim, just even with the metabolic code. So the fact that, again, you looked at AI integration early on. So let's talk for a minute about the tools that are available. So molecules, supplements, hormones aside, how can we look at things like AI and technology to help us better understand how our body is metabolically responding to the way we're living? And what, if anything, could that do in supporting super longevity by way of looking at this information?
Well, I mean, this is an area that, I've dreamed about a long time. And I think AI is good when AI has something to look at that's worthwhile. And AI is misleading and going to give you bad information if it's looking in the wrong pond of information. And so I think the first step to understand is how good is my data set and my information that I'm extracting from. And I think that what AI will do for us is it's going to uncover new relationships that need work on. Yeah. That it's going to see these common threads. I can tell you, we applied AI to a study. We just did this study. 40 women ages 25 to 58. So menstruating to non-menstruating. And they were all overweight. And it was a weight loss program. So there was a defined diet that they did. They had a workout that include Pilates and breath work and exercise, but not too much of anything. Mm-hmm. But then all they did was give 2 basic supplements. I mean, very honestly, basic. All right. All the women lost between 8 and 24 pounds. Now, here's where it got interesting. When we applied our engine against it, we found out that while all the women lost between 8 and 24 pounds, those with the biggest weight loss had the biggest changes in their global score of symptoms and labs, meaning that the more you corrected all of it, the better their chemistry, the better they reported their symptoms, and the better that they lost weight, meaning that their metabolism got back on track. And this is no use of GLP-1s. This is no use of chromium and bitter melon and, all the things, right? None of that. But the other neat thing was and this totally shocked me. All right. So this blew literally shifted my brain a lot. And it takes a lot to do that. I mean,
It
honestly.
does. It does. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
So,
Bring it.
so here, I know I'm teasing you. I'm teasing you.
I know. I love it. I'm like, I'm on the edge of my seat.
So the first thing is here are the factors that mattered. In women, testosterone mattered, progesterone mattered, evening cortisol mattered, glucose mattered, secretory IgA mattered. These were all the things that had a relevance coefficient of 1, which means that all of these things, and some of those women contributed to weight loss, but all those things didn't contribute to everyone's weight loss, right?
Yeah.
So the point being is when you start to correct diet, you start to exercise, the areas that are weaker, the more that you adapt, your body adapts to what you said. That's circadian, I'm back on track. All the circuits on the circuit board have flipped on. The more we see a return to that autonomy or that homeostasis. Now, here's the one that did not matter at all. It did not come out whatsoever. In fact, in many cases, it got worse. You're not going to believe it.
Oh,
Thyroid hormone.
interesting.
Because you know how we all focus on, oh my God, you've got to get your thyroid right.
Yep.
You got to get your T4 to T3. Your TSH has to be here in order to get well. It's got to do this. It's got to do that. Well, it had no correlation. None. And in fact, it, in many cases, and maybe if we did the study past 90 days, we'd see that TSH come back into an ideal range. I would imagine that if we tracked people longer, that would happen. But clearly, it was about stress hormones, the gut, sex hormones.
Yep.
Right? That was what was playing out in these individuals. And the fact that when those hormones are out, people have a lot of symptoms.
Yeah.
So, and so, it was mind-boggling. I thought for sure we're going to see some great thyroid hormone changes because that's what everybody talks about all the time.
Yeah.
And look, this was an open label study. This wasn't double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled. This was an open label study, but it was well done. And so it's that thought that AI is going to help us figure out what really matters. And maybe certain lab values we thought mattered a lot.
Right.
As it relates to when we hear about T4 to T3 conversions off, well, maybe that's because something else is going on. And it's not about giving thyroid hormone. It's about the fact that I'm sympathetic dominant.
Yeah.
And it's about the fact that my cortisol is creating problems with my thyroid, not that it's actually a thyroid problem. And that for me, I don't know. How did these women lose 8 to 24 pounds? And we had pictures in 3 months. They look great. They had a big shift, mood changes, symptom changes, everything, right?
Yeah.
And yet thyroid meant nothing.
So here's what's really beautiful about this. And so kind of bringing it together is that, I always think of metabolics really being the upstream engine that drives the downstream aging process. And so, when you talk about just something it's as significant yet as simple from a concept of insulin resistance, well, what precedes that? It's really what's happening with glucose. So when we think about what you learned from this study, and I'm going to extrapolate this for our listeners, whether again you're an expert or an enthusiast, blood sugar really tells us a lot as it pertains not just what's on the end of our fork, it's letting us know about our stress response. So glucose and cortisol are one is driving another. We're stressed, we're dumping cortisol, we're raising glucose, and leading to, again, insulin resistance. It's not just about what we're eating. That is a part of it, 100% for sure. And so I love that. Makes total sense to me. What you're sharing with me makes total sense. And the thing that I want our audience to understand, if they don't, is that these upstream metabolic hormones, cortisol, that's tied to this stress response. And we're going to come back to that. We're going to really kind of round out our conversation today about the importance of the stress factor. So stay with me for a moment. But what's happening upstream has this downstream effect on our sex hormones. Because again, fight or flight, if I got to stay alive, I'm not worried about making a baby. So like it's just that blunt, right? Like, and so it shunts our production. It's going to naturally decrease our production. Plus, of course, there's all the endocrine disruptors, there's all the things from the outside world. But if we keep it super simple, common sense, gang. And I appreciate you today, Jim. Yes, we want to talk about these radical ideas, and sometimes we are missing the mark with some of the most basic things because we can have the most grandiose visions, and I believe they're completely possible. We will never make the impossible possible if we do not first conceive it to be even just an idea, a dream, a seed that we can plant. So I want everybody to keep dreaming 10x quantum leap bigger than you've ever dreamt before. There is no crazy impossible dream. And yet,
Right.
as we plant that seed and we tend to it and we water it and we nourish it, let us come back into this moment right here and say, what is the single most important thing I could be doing? And that's what I'm going to bring to you, Jim. So if we understand these dynamics of metabolics, and one of the key areas that it is so dysregulated is by way of that sympathetic dominance and that stress response. And we live in a sympathetic dominant world. What is your best super longevity, stress busting hack piece of advice that you can give us to give us all that little edge?
Drink a martini every day? No, it's not that.
Okay, wait. Let's just take a moment to give a little love to I just realized for real last week in Vegas that I love martinis. I'm not a gin drinker, but last week it became my thing. So cheers to a good martini.
Yeah, I got it. I got it. So a couple things. One is the most simple thing you can do is make sure you do your glucose, do a finger stick glucose or get a venipuncture. If you're using a CGM, realize that's interstitial glucose. That is not accurate. It's 20% off the sugar in your venipuncture. So it's good for understanding glucose oscillation, meaning, hey, I ate this, I drank this wine, I didn't sleep as much, and I saw this big shift in my glucose. But it is not an accurate reflection of what a blood glucose is. And so that's the first step. And you nailed it. Glucose is like at ground zero of why we age, right? That's it. So if stress is one of the big things that causes it, and the biggest thing that'll help release cortisol, postprandial hyperglycemia, when you eat and your sugar goes up a lot, you release cortisol. And then when you get stressed out because of emails and texts and the fact that your car just got hit with something on the road today on the drive out, and you just had the car repainted and done, just stuff like that hits, but your cortisol is going to hit. And I'm a big believer. I did breathing work. So I did Qigong for 15 years. And now I just have learned when I feel myself feeling that sympathetic dominance coming in, breathe through it, let it go. I mean, and I'm Italian. It's hard. I mean, I'm just telling you, genetically, I was around a bunch of really loud Italians growing up. And basically for me, it's why I'm so loud when I'm lecturing, right? I mean, I've got a big voice. But it really was important for me. Like I look like right now, I am super jacked up. My heart rate's at 61 because I'm super excited. I mean, yesterday I'm running around at 55, and I work really hard at finding joy. I work hard at not working. Like maybe when I was younger, I worked really long hours. And I know people look at my schedule and they see me posting and they go, wow, that guy's insane. But I actually take the time. I make sure I power down. When I'm lecturing all day, I have a power down circuit that I go, okay, it's time for me to power down. And I move slower. I move more quiet. I become more of a tortoise than a hare. And I understand that I need to do that in order to regulate my nervous system. So the big hack for me is learn the management of your nervous system, whether you need to use an app. I mean, let's face it, this telling you it's time to breathe is a sign that culturally we're in trouble. If we need
Yeah.
to be reminded to breathe.
Yeah.
All right. So breath, incredibly important. And once again, you don't have to kill yourself in the gym. Zone two, walk, do whatever. I mean, garden, move, do something. But you've got to move to help exercise your nervous system. The harder you train, the more you put your body into sympathetic duress. So when people are being paid as professional athletes, they're getting paid millions of dollars. They need to push their body and stress themselves like that. And I've learned this. I'm in my I'm in my seventh decade, right? I'm in my mid 60s, right? I'm going to 70. Not too quick though.
Right.
But the point being
You
is,
become more vital every time I see you. So you truly are the pinnacle of age reversal. So yes, continue
well,
with your
I
point.
appreciate that. So, but I just think it's important that people actually make a conscious effort
Yeah.
to regulate their nervous system, that it's the circuit breaker box in your home, that you do not want the switches getting overwhelmed with too much electricity and then flipping that circuit breaker off. That's called allostatic load.
Mhm.
That's when your body starts breaking down. So work the nervous system and then learn about your blood sugar. You said it beautifully. Cortisol goes up, glucose goes up, insulin goes up, because your body is going to try and keep that glucose in your bloodstream to fight that white tiger. And you're
Yeah.
thinking about fight or flight, not thinking about procreating. And that starts making you catabolic. You break down muscle. Not only do you shut down your sex hormones down, you shut down your growth hormone, you start to lose bone. There's just things that start to happen. And that's my hack. My hack's simple. Find a way to be mindful, breathe deep. If it's getting in a sauna and breathing deep, do that. If it's doing Tai Chi, do that. If it's reading a book, do that. But have the active thought. Like I said, I go from a hare to a tortoise. I
Yeah.
know when it's time. I need to shut down. It's my personal time. It's my me time. It's my time to rejuvenate and do that. It's made a huge difference in my life. I'm going to tell you, I ran hard. I mean, I've written 27 books now, and number 28, 29, and 30 will be out this year. And so I run very hard. But what's so funny about that? If I'm not writing 2 to 3
I
books a year,
love
I
it.
have no
You're
problem.
insatiable. And I just love it. I mean, again, this is why you are here. This is why you are leading the charge and you continue to with so much just vitality and aliveness, because everybody needs to see that, listen, as you said, you're in your mid 60s. And to me, age is just doesn't even matter yet.
Right?
Like if we think about that through a traditional lens right now of how the masses might look at a number, you're already defying expectations. You are living by example to say, I'm filled with just purpose and things that get me up, that just like get my blood going, get my heart pumping, get me just filled, get my brain going. I'm learning, I'm creating, I'm
Oh
collaborating,
yeah.
I'm living big, and I'm also
Getting chills.
relaxing and chilling. And yeah, but that's you, Jim. I mean, like really, I'm reflecting you right now because it is who you are. And I feel like more people need to know that this is living. Like this is really there is no wrong way to live, but to be able to live in such a vital state, I think that that's what this listening audience is about. So to me, I believe you are a true just inspiration to everybody that's watching and listening. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, it's interesting. Like I lectured 19 hours this weekend at A4M, so at the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. Of course, I'm the co-chair there and chair of the International Peptide Society. But on stage, 19 hours, people go, "My God, how do you do it?" I mean, what do you mean, how do I do it? It is amazing to be given the chance
Yeah.
to engage that much with healthcare professionals that are hungry to help other people.
Yes.
So engagement, vitality, service, all of that is what brings joy.
Yes.
Wake up every
Yes.
day excited about the next day. I mean, I think of what are the next 10 things I can do to make a difference. Because you know what? Long after I'm gone, I'm hoping that people were standing on my shoulders and said, you know what? I learned a lot from that guy, but then I built on it.
Yeah.
I built on what he taught me, and I'm getting new revelations, creating a revolution, creating that capacity for us to reach for thriving and striving, right? And
That's what
so
super
that's
longevity
it.
really is about, because it is this continual progress, this evolution forward into greater and greater states of human flourishing, going beyond where we thought the limits once existed. And that's what happens when we inspire one another, we collaborate, we build, we co-create. It does bring about this exponential, right, expression of what it means to be human. So I love it.
Uh,
We're rounding out. We're going to do a few rapid
yes.
fire questions, then I'm going to let you
Okay.
go because
Here
we
we
are
go.
so grateful for all your time today. Okay, I actually really love this question. Let me ask you your most memorable life lesson.
I didn't have to be the smartest person in the room.
Hmm. Wow. I think we all can appreciate. I want to go back and tell my younger self that. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Okay. In 10 years, what do you think will be the most important tool for longevity that doesn't exist yet?
Um, I think it will be 3D printing the true personalization of your biochemical needs on a daily basis.
Yep.
So as
Yeah.
we look at our chemistry, we can I right now I can already get 600 points of contact on my face and read it. And that can tell me 8 different future cardiovascular diseases, 8 different neurologic diseases. I can look at facial asymmetry. I can look at resting heart rate, blood pressure, everything off my camera. So I can find the daily guidance and personalization that's easy to implement. That's what I think is going to be the next big horizon.
I agree. I am so with you. You and I talked about that even a couple of years ago. I'm right there. I think that's super exciting, and we will see that coming. All right. And last but not least, share with us your longevity living vision. Take us out, because I know you've said 80s. I want to know what 100 and I want to know what 120, 130 Jim LaValle is looking like as he's still living large. Take us there. What are some things to your
I
vision?
think I'm climbing up the steps in Sardinia, collecting my fresh food, sitting down and enjoying the company of my friends,
Yeah.
and sharing my life experience that I've lived through all those years. So if I had to think about the 120-year Jim LaValle, that's what I would hope for.
Yeah, that feels good. That feels good. I love it. Dr. Jim LaValle, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom, your expertise. Where can people find out more about you, which of course we will have in the show notes?
Right. Obviously, the real Jim LaValle on Instagram. Apparently, my son does a tremendous job at doing that. I'm in the generation of like, I don't know what to do, but he certainly has lit that fire. I'm super excited about him being with me. Metaboliccode.com, jimlavalle.com, real easy.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. Thank you, dear friend. Again, always an honor and a pleasure. And to each and every one of you, thank you as always for tuning in. Continue to go out and be bold, stay curious, and enjoy expressing your full states of aliveness. Thank you for joining us on RAADcast, where science and soul ignite the future of radical life extension. Be sure to visit us over at raadfest.com. There you can engage with like minds in the super longevity movement and find out about upcoming conferences and events. If you're inspired by today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's ready to live bigger, bolder, and longer. Stay curious, and we'll see you next time on RAADcast.